Well,
Board games, board games. We might be talking about board games, but we're not gonna shout. I am starting off this streaming about board game manufacturing, and there's Pablo Guevara who comes from Hero Time. This is on our screen. Thank you for your time.
thank
Thank you for joining us for the chat. Board game manufacturing is the topics, and we'll talk a bit about that. Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good whatever it is, wherever you are. 10 a.m. is UK time, time for Busy Beats and Board Game Blether. And today we are meeting Pablo Guevara, who you said your job title is a creator assistant. So that means you're liaising between the designers and the manufacturing side. Could you, for people who don't know you, could you explain a little bit more about who you are, what you do, and what you need people to know?
Okay, thank you. First, thank you so much for this. Well, as you said, I'm Pablo. I'm from Argentina, but I work for Hero Time. That's a board game manufacturing company from China. And what they do with me, they decided to have this link between the designer and the producer because there's sometimes missing communication there, and they might be some delays, and the company that doesn't want delays at all. So they put me in charge of something in the middle that I can talk to the designer, talk to the manufacturing. I have both experience, both in producing games and also designing games. So it's kind of a link to make everything better. So if
Mm,
you a question as a designer that you need to get that answer from the manufacturer, you just can directly contact me, and we can even work it out without having this delay that it goes back and forward to the questions to the factory, and the translation and the communication, the language and all that things. uh, I can say that it's some way fixed, and it's a straightforward work when you decided to move to the design stage to the production stage. That's
So
pretty
when
much.
someone starts working with Hero Time, it sounds like they get some sort of accounts manager to communicate between them and everything going on. And how many accounts managers are there? Are you the only one?
Yeah, right now there are three of them. One of the is the CEO, and there's another guy that I start working with, and it's me. Yeah, we are three that were doing this job. It's not a heavy load weight. I mean, it's not a heavy work because usually it's only fixing some issues, and that's pretty much it.
Mhm.
We get in contact with the designers if we can, if the designer allows us. We can get in contact since the day one they decided to make the game. So it's a back and forward. Sometimes it takes years to produce a game, so we have this connection that it's only to keep updated and see, okay, is everything okay? Yeah, I tried this new component. Okay, watch out because that component might be a cost problem and blah blah blah. And we it's like we continually working alongside the designer if they want. Sometimes they only contact us when they already have all the game design. Sometimes they contact us because they know them. They know that we can offer them this thing about day one. Like I say, have
Yeah.
a
And
make
when
a
I look at the website, I mean, I see four people listed: Hirsch and
young.
Yang Yu Hua, Hunag Li Bin,
Yeah,
and Jesse
uh,
Zhang.
that's the factory. Hirsch is the CEO. He also do what I do. But the other guy is not there. It's Barry. It's another guy. Uh,
And Barry's from the UK?
yeah, no, he's from the USA.
USA, okay. And I might have gotten this wrong, but I heard that friends of the show, Ian Brocklebank, you either was or is still working for Hero Time.
I don't think that. I mean, he used to work in, but I don't think he's working anymore, or at
Okay.
least doing the things that I'm doing. Maybe he's doing some support on the other side. But I think
And I
I am.
guess when we talk about the team, this is maybe the people who are working, like the people that they wanted to promote for whatever reason. There's going to be a lot of people on the factory floor and a lot of other people who are maybe part-time. And
These are the key positions of the company. If you take a look at on a manufacturing company, you have three major roles or four major roles. One, of course, is the CEO, but then the specialist on graphic design, the outsourced guy, or in this case, girl. It's like those are key positions on a company. It's not just the four of them. That's a large factory.
yeah, so it is a situation where there's hundreds of people probably working together. Is that fair to say? Can you give us an idea of the scope of how many things are typically printed every year or every month?
Well, we usually have we take an average from 8 to 10 games a month. That's pretty much overall. That was. I mean, I came back a year ago to the company, and they're producing a little less. So we hit the spot of 10 games per month, which what it does was to create a new need, which is to make a larger deposit and a larger production. And so they're moving next year, so we can grow up to 15 games a month. That's probably next year target.
Okay, so right now it sounds like you are pretty much at capacity. So if someone wants to print with Hero Time, they will have to wait a few months. But
The good thing is that if you're moving on a system that we do the system, we have a flow that allows you to produce the game within 60 days. That's pretty much the average time that we take to get the game. It's 30 from 60, depending on the components and the complexity, but overall, it's a 60 days job. We're still keeping on those days. I mean, usually, if you go now to decide that you're going to produce with us, we're talking about that it might take about 6 months from the day you decided to produce with a manufacturing company. It's not like that you having a game and tomorrow you want to have your game done. There's no way to do that. The only way that
oh
you
yeah,
can,
it's
I
going
mean,
to
you
take bits of time no matter where you go. I mean, the
yeah,
best case scenario, even if you want print on demand with which is less quality, that's still going to take
exactly.
a couple of weeks.
We're a mass production company. For example, yesterday I closed a deal with a guy, and we're doing their game in October next year. So usually the designers take a few months until they have or the money or the product to finish to go for mass production. Usually takes 6 to 9 months since they close the deal in a way with the producer.
Sure.
There might be some
Let's
examples that they need an urgent thing or whatever, but usually those are the times.
let's take a step back, and I would like to ask a couple of serious questions, but I'd also like to ask some silly questions. So let's now go to the questionably quick questions. Is the next section. It's not an interrogation. It's just the questionably quick question section. Questionably quick questions. So, firstly, yeah, you mentioned 8 to 10 games a month, but how many copies of each game are there on average, would you say?
Now, I mean, it's based on the games. We have games that are produced only 500 copies, which is our MOQ, a minimum order quantity, and there are games that goes beyond 100,000 copies. It's not. I mean, the batch process. It's the amount of games,
Sure,
but
but if you said, okay, typically in 1 month we make this many copies of games, would you say it would be 50,000 units per month?
uh,
Or,
it'd be something between 50 and 100,000 units a month.
okay, when was Hero Time set up?
About 4 years ago now, I think.
Okay. What's the last game you played?
Uh, I played the last game I played, Barrage. I don't know if you know it.
Yes, and who would you recommend that to? That's quite slightly complex
Yeah,
for
it's. I mean, I usually don't play complex game, but I was invited, a virtual
what do you
one.
mean?
I was invited, and yeah, I really like it. It's a really cool game. It's a complex one. Yeah, pretty complex.
Books or
But
podcasts?
what
Books or podcasts?
books?
And what was the last book you read?
Again, for the I don't know 25th time, Lord of the Ring.
Lord of the Rings.
Yeah,
Literally, you've read it that many times.
yeah, a lot since I'm 13, 12. I don't know.
Okay, so are you a big aficionado? Would you say that you've watched? I hear there's like a new series being made on, and do you watch all the films and the animations, or do you just stick to the original material, the books and the Silmarillion and everything?
Um, I'm open to everything. I mean, I when I love something, I just want to watch it, no matter if it's new or it's old. I really like it.
What did you think of the animated film of Lord of the Rings?
They're okay. I will say
Very
less,
non-committal.
less than okay, but yeah, I don't care. It's okay.
And what if someone's playing games for New Year and they're maybe having a few people over for a bit of a light party around New Year? What are maybe two or three games you would recommend to them that you would like to play?
Well, usually, I'm not a huge fan of party games, but last Christmas Eve, I brought Happy Salmon,
Oh, yeah.
that really silly game, and we really have a blast. Uh,
I mean, that's
and
such a simple concept, originally by North Star Games, now republished by Exploding Kittens, where you just match things and it's all about the frantic running around the table, right?
well, I'm not a huge fan of party games, but I also know that I'm not in a community that it's a huge hardcore board game fan. So usually we play that kind of games. I mean, um,
And if you
it's
had
it.
to bring two more to the party, which other two would you bring?
Well, I really like. I mean, this is an Argentinian game. It's a game that it's based on Cards Against Humanity, but it's produced here in Argentina with an Argentinian theme that it's really really nice. Uh, it's called Friends. In English, it looks like Shitty Friends. I'm sorry the word, but it's something like that. The name. And it's really really funny to play with, but I will say that usually those kind of a car against humanity kind of games, I'm not again, I'm not a huge fan, but people seems to like it very well. So, um, and
Sure.
the problem is that we usually play a lot of Argentinian games on
Well, go
parties.
ahead. Tell us. Tell me one of the names or how it
The other one,
works.
it's really playing here a lot. It's a game in English. I mean, in Spanish es no lo testeamos ni un poco, but in English is we didn't test it at all. That's the name of the
Oh, you
game.
didn't play test this at all.
Yeah, we
Yes.
didn't test it at all. It's a
By Asmadi Games.
huh?
Asmadi Games?
Match games.
Um, I'll get the picture up while you keep talking.
Okay. Well, people seems to like that also. Again, I'm not a huge fan. I mean, it's weird because I'm not a huge fan of party games, but nowadays that I work for Hero Time, I try a lot of those games. Yeah, we didn't play test this at all. Yeah, probably it's gonna be the same game. Yeah,
Mm-mm.
I don't know if they do it in English. I mean, it's a game that it's been around here for over I don't know 6, 7 years now. Uh, I know they're trying to get it outside. It's a yeah, that's a game. It's a really really silly game, but people loves it. I mean, you just have two cars, they're totally random. You might having a card that it says use it and lose. It's like, I don't know, people love that kind of games. So yeah.
And you mentioned that these aren't your favorite styles of game. You said that you are not a big fan of party games. So if you could be anywhere and there's a group, any number of people you want who are ready to play whatever game you want. Let's say you were at a convention or you were just out, what would be your ideal game day with, let's say, two or three favorite games?
Well, usually, when I go to places that I try to bring some games that people will love, would like, I will say that I usually bring games like a dexterity kind of game, like Reno Hero, or I don't know, simple games. Some take that. The last time that I met with some friends, I bring a game that it's called Through My Goal. Uh,
Through
that's a
My
lot.
Goal. Okay,
Yeah,
how does that work?
it's a really cool game. You have a dragon. You're on the mine, and during the
Okay.
mine, you have to move. If you want, you can get off the mine, or you can keep it. And while you keep it, you take cars. But in the meantime, if you have some car, you have some cars that dragon is moving along with you. So you are a group. You have the decision to dig more gold or move you yourself or your group outside. So
And where
it's
does the dexterity come into it?
no, that's not a dexterity. That's
Oh,
a
okay.
yeah, take that game.
Okay,
No,
cool.
I usually try to get this again simple games that not party, but they're simple to play along
And
with.
this is your like, if you could play anything right now, if time were to stop, like, just what would you, Pablo, most like to play right now?
It's a lot different question. I'm a huge deck builder fan, and actually, Dominion it's for me the best game ever made. And every other
Hmm.
deck builder that you want, that you know, they're pretty good. I mean, I love Tyrants, I love Plank, I love Hero Realms, Terra Realms. My own game, I designed my own game, which is a deck builder also.
Okay. What do
That's
you
for me.
think of having multiple resources like Penny Arcade? Have you played that one?
No, I don't remember playing it.
Okay, no worries. Like, let's talk about your game that you mentioned. So, when exactly did you start making it, and when exactly was it released? So, this is a deck builder that you released 1,500 copies of just into Argentina.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, this game has been around since 2016. During pandemic, I got the opportunity to finish and to get in contact with some artists to produce the art of the game. We end up doing a game that it's a high quality one. I mean, people
Mhm.
really, really enjoy it. Um, and then I moved to a Kickstarter. I tried to release a Kickstarter without knowing anything of Kickstarter. I didn't have a clue about how it works. Turns out, I mean, as I always say, it was an unsuccessful successful because I managed to get 300 backers, which is a lot for a lot of games, especially for this that doesn't have any money and the campaign was the worst and everything. But people seems to like the game, and I managed to get $9,000, but I have a funding goal that it was higher than that, so it didn't get funded, thankfully, thank God. And and now we're gonna do a re-release on March next year for the Kickstarter. I think it's gonna be really okay. Right now, there's a lot of following on the game. I have a lot of followers all around, and people really excited about the game. So in the meantime, I thought that it was a good idea to release it here in Argentina. Yeah, that's a game. So I released it here, and it turns out that people love it, and it was a clean sweep for us. I mean, I usually games in Argentina. You produce from 500 to 1,000. I go for 1,000 when I start all doing all this, and I do a pre-sale, and all of a sudden, during the pre-sale, over 600 copies of the game were sold, which was amazing. So I contacted the manufacturing, and we have. I mean, I don't have the opportunity to produce more. I want to produce more, but it was impossible because they already have all raw materials. Producing here in Argentina, it's quite a so it's like we made 1,600 copies of the game, and it was pretty sold out in just 6 months. Everything was sold. People really, it seems that people really enjoy the game according to the Board Game Geek reviews, and a lot of people get in contact with me each day saying that they're playing the game, they love it, and it's like for me was wow, first game, and it was
So
really
this
really.
was back in 2021, and now you're trying to launch a Kickstarter to do it on a bigger global scale.
Yeah, I mean, I decided to do on Kickstarter on October this year. I went to Essen, to the Essen Spiel, and I showed the game there, and people really was excited about it. So there's a Germany publisher that's going to release the game next year. Not on the Kickstarter, they're doing on their side.
Congratulations! Which one are you allowed to talk about that?
Yeah, no, Taverna Ludica, it's the publisher. It's a
Okay. And
really nice.
for the original printing, who did you manufacture with?
No, here we don't have a board game manufacturing company here in Argentina. Argentina has a quite complex custom export import problem that it takes. I mean, if you want to produce something outside, you need to have a lot of things going on that it's really impossible for a lonely publisher. So I have to produce in Argentina. So the producer, I can say it because no one knows it. It's Comiso. It's just book manufacturing here. But the thing with this guy, Martin was is the owner. Is that he hear me about the needs that a game need and the things that I need to get improved. Because it's not just only printing paper. We need some things on the paper that it has to be a better quality. And turns out pretty nice. I mean, the cars of the game. Let me.
Well, congratulations on that. That sounds like you've done a really good job to be proud of.
Yeah, it was quite a job. I have it right here. Here, I have it right here. The quality of the cars, it's amazing for the Argentinian market. Let's put it this. I figured out a good. I mean, we in Argentina we don't use violence to uncut things. So we need to even produce as simple as you hear. I mean, if you buy a game from China, all the producer will do it without any problem. Here in Argentina, we have to develop something to do this cutting. I mean, to have to figure out how to make. It's difficult to show on game, but how to make the perfect cutting of the cars. It was quite a challenge. The good thing is that I have a manufacturing here that helps me through this project. Even the box was quite complex, as it's just a box. I mean, that's the thing.
Yeah, for a manufacturer that's doing it for the first time, I can imagine that you're potentially going to run into all sorts of potential issues. But you were able to communicate everything clear enough that they said, and the needs of a card game as opposed to the books. Because if a book is like 0.5 millimeter wider on some pages, then it's not the end of the world. But with cards, if they're, that it's going to ruin your ability to shuffle if there's, something going wrong, especially with a deck builder where shuffling is one of the most important things.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, the good thing about this guy is that allows me to get into the factory and everything because I have a background on graphic on the past. So we connect each other easily because of this connection. And that's pretty much what Hero Time was looking for when I start working with them. Someone that knows how a game is made, how things are harsh on a graphic environment, and how you have to fix things.
Now, unless people have questions that they would like to quickly ask, my last question to you is going to be: would you rather have a meeple-sized duck or a duck-sized meeple?
Meeple, always meeple-sized duck. Something. I'm a minimalist. I love small things. So yeah.
Okay, so let's move on to the recent highlights. Recent highlights, living life and seeing the sights. Recent highlights, playing games and other delights. Of course, it's been Christmas, and it's not a regular time of the year. But what has life been for you, like for you, in the past couple of days? For me, myself, I had a bit of time alone over Christmas. Timmy will know that I started up Undertale, which I'd not played before. I'd heard a lot of good things about this game. I'd bought it ages ago when it was I think it was either on a sale or it might have been one of those Humble bundles. And I started it up. I played it for more than 2 hours, and definitely I like the fact that you don't have to fight people. You don't have to actually hit people. Although I still feel bad when I'm threatening people because apparently you need to threaten the frog before you can spare its life. So there's a lot of interesting stuff going on. It is a little bit linear, so it's not as it feels like it takes a long time to get things done with the random battles and the moving around. It's not the fastest game, but if you are happy to spend a bit of time on it, yeah, I'm enjoying it and I'm looking forward to playing more. I also played a few games on Board Game Arena. I played Tic Tac Match, which I might talk about more in the future, but it's basically a combination of Uno and Tic Tac Toe. Have you heard of this?
Yeah, no, no, I never heard of.
It's
There's
ridiculous. So you've got some cards which are one of four different colors, either an X or a zero, and you've got 9 piles in a 3 by 3 grid. And on this grid, you can either put a card, if it's empty, you can put anything in there. If there's an X, you can put any X on. If there's a ready card, you can either put something that matches the symbol or matches the color. So that means that you can swap your opponent's things around, and you need to get a line of three, not only of your symbol, so one person is X, the other person is zero, but also of the same color. So it's the same color and same symbol. And there's a few other cards that add a little bit of chaos, doing two moves at once, swapping the objectives, making the opponent discard all their cards, and I think there's one more that I've forgotten about. But it's got tiny bit of strategy, a surprising amount of tactics. So every turn, it's like, okay, forget what's happened now. Just based on this hand, what is the best thing to do? And a nice bit of chaos. So he played that 3 times, and of the 3 games, all of them were completely different. I recommend it. But yeah,
uh,
I didn't do much special
that
for
how many?
Christmas.
Do you know how many Unos I worked in the last year? Probably, Monopoly, amazingly, Monopoly and Uno are pretty much one of the 5 games that I usually have to try it out or test with the designers. It's amazing how many Unos you will find out all over the world. I mean, everyone wants to make a copy of it, and uh,
I
I
mean, I
like it.
wouldn't call this a straight up Uno clone. It was very different because
Main
of
core,
the was getting the
core
matches.
the main core it's a game that you have cards to do there's a little take that and then a little lucky and a little strategy. It's like, I mean, probably, yeah, 1 out of 5 that I games that I test each month, it's a
Wow.
unit or a
So when you
monopoly
talk
base.
about testing games, do you mean testing games on behalf of Hero Time or on
Yeah,
another?
yeah. I have to be honest. I probably during the year I only play, I don't know, 10 released game, maybe 15, maybe a little more because I was on Essen and I have the opportunity to test a few games there. But before Essen, probably 2 or 3 games were tested. If I'm not sorry, not tested, playing final games. This year, usually I played prototypes mostly. I would say that
Mhm.
10 games that I play on the last year were prototypes.
Yeah, it's
That,
quite often the way that any time that you get to play games, you need to be focusing on the next game that you are working on or whatever.
yeah,
But
not for me. I mean, this is one of the offers that the company does. Actually, it's my own offer. It doesn't mean that they force me to do it. Barry, for example, didn't don't do it, but I did it for myself. I love to play the games that people has offered me to quote and to know how much it's gonna cost, because it allows me also to do some recommendations based on production, seeing components that sometimes you feel that when you play them, it's really difficult to know what a game component does when you have a component list and say, yeah, this is not good. This you don't have an idea. I mean, if you don't play the game, you don't know how crucial that component is. So I usually offer to at least do a playtesting, virtual playtesting, doing a tabletop simulator or something. And when I play the game, I can figure out that some components may be changed to some cheaper options or wherever. Usually, I would say that probably most of the games that I play, we end up seeking for alternatives on the components to make it easier or to make it cheaper. I mean, usually I work with designers that they want to produce 500, 1,000, 2,000 copies of the game, so they don't have that budget that I say, yeah, I don't care, I can spend a lot of money. Usually they're pretty tight type people, so we change a lot of the components. Well, we means that we were talking about something else, but usually I'm doing a lot of playtesting on games that
I mean, it's
probably
got
are.
to be interesting when such a big proportion of your time, presumably, is spent managing those accounts where it is just 1,000 copies or 2,000 copies.
For
And
me, for me, it's the same. If you
presumably,
want,
those smaller accounts are far less lucrative to the company as a result because you need a greater amount of attention and care for these people.
I don't care if it's a 500 copies or if it's a 5 million copies game. I mean, for me, it's a designer. It's a
Sure, for
guy
you,
that
you don't care, but presumably Hirsch, the owner, cares because one is going to maybe get more money in the bank account.
that you mentioned, because he's not a designer, but he has everything on ground. I mean, it's a guy that knows that what the designer needs and wants and expect. And he started making this company. I mean, a small background of the company. Hertz is a guy from the USA that met a Chinese guy, a woman on Australia. He get married and he moved to China. His brother makes toys on Israel, so he decided to talk to his brother and tell him, "Why don't you look at for some suppliers on China while you're living there?" And he's a board game fan, so he decided that it was really great, all this outsourcing thing for his brother. So he decided to build a company. So it's not a typically Chinese manufacturing company that they born as a manufacturing company or they're born as a graphic manufacturing company. He's a guy that loves to play games, so he decided to build a company around that. Uh, with that background, the way that we work, it's totally different than the rest of the Chinese manufacturing company. The other ones are pretty more straightforward. Give me your details. This is the quote. This is the price. That's okay. We produce. That's it. With Hirsch, it's like we get involved on the games. That's probably why he decided to hire me, because he wants to get more involved on the games and wants to help them out, the designer in some stages. I mean, when you see a manufacturing company that send you an email saying, okay, how you doing, how's your game, it's everything okay, the last time we play tested there was some mistakes on this and that, do you manage to solve that? It's There's no way that, I mean, I have my own experience when I decided to do the Kickstarter and I start quoting for companies outside on China, and there's none of the companies on the world that you will receive an email from a guy of the company saying, "Do you need something? Do you want to play test the game again? Why don't we take a look at the component?" I mean, we're probably unique on that. That's why really loves us when we get in contact, and then we have a good price also. So it's like um, we're kind of different company. Where I will say that we're a manufacturing company, but with a little step forward on some services in a way. But it's not services. I mean, it's just a guy that is a designer, and the owner of the company says, okay, you are this guy. You need to move along your designers and help them. I mean, you can see a little of that on the Facebook groups that I try to help other designers replying
Sure,
questions. And
and it's really interesting. I would agree. I don't know any other manufacturer that would integrate, um, yeah, playtesting, and it's that something that you just do on an as needed basis to say, well, you're going to work with us. I want to make sure that this is the best project that it can be. I'm invested in your success, so I'm going to help you.
I'm on a while. He saw the way that I work and the way that I connect with other designers. So I'm on a while. He just sent me. It's like he released me on the woods and go hunt, go and try to help them out and try to push them. Usually, I try to push them and a little bit the designers to get down with the designers. Once I playtest some of the games that I know that these games are going to be good, I push them a lot to the designers. So some of them thank me for that, and I can help them out looking for hiring other people that they need. They might sometimes they look for artists, so I point them to some
So, do you
artists.
also help out? You mentioned your own graphic design skills. Do you help out publishers in
Yeah,
that area?
on the beginning, yes. I mean, when I receive a game that it's something weird on the graphic design and there needs some changes, if the designer allows me to do it, meaning that they send me not just the PNG file, but they send me the vector file. I mean, they send me the complete file of the game, and it's there's something that I have the opportunity to change since it's not that complex. I get in contact with the designer and tell them, this is weird, why don't we do this and that, and then sometimes I fix it myself, uh, because it's easier than getting back to the designer has to get back to the graphics. Usually they're not the same people, so they have to get back to the designer want to overcharge them for doing just small modifications. So yeah, if it's not that complex, we used to uh, fix it a little bit. I mean, again, there's sometimes this is always a suggestion that I do with the designers is as soon as they get in contact with us, we open a file, an archive on our cloud, so they can drop some files there. We can check if the art it's okay, if everything is okay for mass printing, because usually they're not preparing the stuff really well for mass printing. So we do suggestions that if you do that on the beginning of your design, it's going to be easier because you get in contact with your graphic designer with all these details that we bring them and they fix it. Or by the end, when they send and say, yeah, but we already do all. It's like, okay, but you need to fix this. There's sometimes that we cannot fix it because it's impossible to fix, but sometimes we can make some modifications and do it. I
So,
mean,
sorry
again,
to let me summarize. So, it sounds like you started off doing the graphic design at the start, but then you found that it was just too much. So, you're no longer doing that for people. Is that correct to
no,
say?
I'm not. I mean, it's not my daily
Main
job.
role.
It's my
Sure.
main role. I mean, I can fix it. If I can fix it, I will do it. It doesn't matter. Again, I don't care if it's 500 or 10,000 million copies of the game. The game has to be done right, no matter how many copies do you want on your game. So if I can help them out and if I can fix it, I will do it. It's not my main job. I mean, it's not like you have the prototypes, just write it down and you want all the graphic design of the game. I don't do that. You need to hire to do that. But if I have to fix something, yeah, I can do it.
Okay, well, let's take a break because we've been talking a lot about manufacturing, but I do always like to talk about something that everyone might have encountered day to day, which is a brilliant thing, brilliant thing, It's a little thing which is brilliant. Do you have something that you would like to suggest today?
Um, in which field? I mean,
Okay, if you don't have something in your mind, I am going to suggest something. And my suggestion for today is going to be tins. Tins. I mean, we tins allow us to, and not only tins, but specifically ring pools. Because whilst it's great to have, something that can seal the food, keep it good for years, it blows your mind, and then you cut it open and then you open it. But even if you don't have a tin opener, hopefully with this, I could just pull this up with my nail and anywhere, anytime, it's going to just take a second. I don't need to rely on having found that can opener. Maybe I'm somewhere, I've moved into a new place without a tin opener. I don't know. Either way, I think that the ring pulls are a brilliant thing.
I mean, everything that solves a huge problem. I love when people make this. I mean, teens been around for us. I don't know, maybe from the First World War. I think they created
Mm-mm.
for the First World War. Um, Having the solution that you don't need anything else. I love that. I love what someone fix something that it's already good. I mean, the tin can, it's already a really good project and a really good product. uh, Probably save a lot of lives, actually, not just us that we bought on the supermarket and that's it. It was a lifesaver. And yeah, you need this crappy thing. Did you ever try to open a tin can without the ring thing, and you don't have the
No,
I don't
I
know.
never have.
Did you ever try it? I do. I want to
But I've
encounter.
tried to do it with a tin opener that's just busted, and it is so painful.
I
And I
I
mean, the idea that it just comes apart, that there's this little seal. I mean, and it's
Yeah,
just
it's like how.
amazing.
Yeah, it's like how they make it.
It's like magic.
Something, how you make something that if you don't do this movement, it will not open. Because that's the thing.
Mm.
It's all one movement to open it. Yeah, it's
Anyway, so tins, yeah. As always, I encourage everyone watching to please comment, ask questions from like follow. I appreciate people, a couple of people saying hello. And yeah, the reason that I do these live is to get a little bit of that chat going so that if people want to chime in with their questions, now that Pablo is here, about zero time or manufacturing in general. So let's start off. I mean, we've already talked about what hero time is, and I think, yeah, I'd like to talk about a little bit about what you think sets hero time apart. We've talked about um, the services, the love and attention that's given. We talked a little bit about the price, although, as an example, if you wanted to do, let's say, something in a two-piece box with one sheet of black and white paper and 54 cards, how much would that cost?
it depends on. There's a lot of stuff going on there. I mean, it depends a lot of how many copies. That's one of the main secrets. It's not
Mm-mm.
the same to order 500 that to order 5,000. On those small games, the difference is quite huge because the setup usually is expensive regarding to the amount of components. Um,
Mm-mm.
I would say
So
that
is it fair to say that the setup might actually be like, well, it's just going to be a massive percentage. So if the price per unit overall for 500, might we be talking about
let's do a little exercise. Regular small deck of card with two boxes, two type boxes or top and lead boxes or
okay,
telescope
so
box.
we're talking 110 cards, are we?
Let's no, it's okay about 55, the 54. Let's say 54. You
Okay.
probably can have something on a 500 copies. You're gonna have something around $3, almost $4 to produce each game. For that same game
including the two-piece box and one sheet of paper.
of paper, the two, yeah, I will say something around 3.5, something around like that. If you move to 1,000, that 3.5 is going to be 2.7, more or less. And if you go to 2,000, it's going to be something around $2.2, $2.3 each. Then larger units, that's after 3,000 copies, everything it's getting weird, because you don't do a game anymore. You're doing volume. You're doing sheets of paper, and you have to do another math. But I will say that, yeah, the cost drops from 500 to 2,000, drops about 60% of the cost. That's pretty much when I usually recommend to designers is that they make this 2,000 milestone on their head, saying, okay, I know that I want 500, but my milestone has to be 2,000, because if you see the current cost of the game above 2,000, the difference between 2,000 and 3,000 is not going to be half of the game. It's going to be 5%, 6%, 7%. The percentage from 2,000 to, let's say, 10,000, it's going to be smaller and smaller each time. But if you go for
friends of the show, Stop Drop Roll, have talked about obviously that price. Sometimes it's freight on board, sometimes it includes delivery to the location. And I know for Earth Rising, they said that Hero Time was able to actually get it over land for better lower environmental impact to come all the way to the UK.
Yeah.
And is that normal? How many companies actually want Hero Time to deal with the shipping as well?
Well, usually when the designer it's 2,000 or less, usually they want DDP. The thing that DDP is, I mean, there are some terms that it's called Incoterms, and they're export terms. I mean, usually when you manufacture, you quote X works, meaning in the factory, saying, okay, this is $2 here in the factory. Then you have some companies that offers you FOB. FOB, it's going from the factory to some port, let's say Shanghai or Beijing or any port, Qingdao, any port that you want. That's FOB. It adds the cost for the internal shipping to get the game from the factory to the port. Then you can have another Incoterms like CIF. CIF, it's the cost of the shipping of the boat and the cost of the insurance to the delivery port, saying you want on the UK, the delivery port is London, so CIF London, you can have that price as well. Or you can have DDP. DDP, it's the price of all included, meaning we take it to our factory, to the port of China, from China to the UK. We take them out to the port of UK. We do all the processing of the paperwork and the custom and whatever. And we put it on a truck that is local, and it's going to be in your garage. That's DDP, duty delivery process. That includes everything. Well, designers that usually order less than 2,000, they all go for DDP, because you have all things fixed. You don't have to think about clearance, about customs, about shipping, about trucking, about boating, and all the stuff that is around there.
And at that volume, it's going to be less than a pallet anyway. If you are doing 2,000 of a small game like this, that's still not even going to be one pallet.
For small games, you have to consider that it might be something, for example, 2,000 of that game is going to be $1.50, something, with all included. It
so
really,
it will be about $3 just for the shipping.
No, yeah, $1.50 for the shipping. It's going to be
sorry for 2,000. But that's going to change, presumably, whether it's 500 or 2,000,
yeah,
right?
At 500, it's going to be something around $3, $4 each.
So we're
because
basically talking about £2,000 regardless of the volume. Is that
yeah,
fair to say?
and up to one volume is shipping by another process. When you get 2,000 units of the game, usually you have a few pallets. So if you have a few pallets, you can manage that by sea transportation. If it's less than
Yeah,
that,
that's a fair thing to say because most games are not as small as my games. Most
yeah,
games, I mean, yeah, most people would still consider this, not a necessarily big game. But when you
no,
consider it
I mean,
compared to this,
that's
this is obviously going, you can fit about 3,000 of these on a pallet, if not
yeah.
like 4,000. But this one, even if you had 1,000, I don't know if that could fit all on one pallet. I don't know. You're the expert.
The thing is that with 500 of those, it's going to be almost two pallets, I would say. It allows you to do a seaport shipping for the medium one. The other one, 500, is going to be probably two boxes. So it's better to ship it. It's cheaper. I mean, on shipping, there's some things that are fixed cost that you have to be aware of when you have a small amount of copies of the game. For example, the clearance paperwork. I don't remember UK, but I can say USA. It costs $1,000 to do all the paperwork for custom clearance. So $1,000
And
on
that's
500
$1,000 regardless of the value
cards.
of the goods
What
and
same
regardless of what comes in.
yeah, if it's the same SKU, it's gonna be the same for 1 or 10 million copies. So it's like for 500, you already have $2 just to get a custom clearance. Um,
Mhm.
So that's why I always suggest to
And
designers that,
so for 500, the landed cost is going to be about 5.5.
yeah, I mean, for a small game, a $3 game like that, for 500, taken to the USA, it's gonna be an extra $3, $4 to ship. So it's gonna be a $7, $8 game, which is a small game. So it's
Mhm.
like, okay, what is the price tag that I need to put on this game? Because I already cover only shipping and making the game. So what now? Should I add an extra dollar on marketing? Should I add an extra dollar on the handling that I have on the USA or UK or whatever? It's like, okay, I have to sell this game $20. So are you having a market of $20 to buy that game? Because $20 seems a lot for a game. I mean, this one usually costs from $10 to $14. So it's that's what I always say to the designers: keep those things in mind. That's why the company brought this idea of a university that we're going to release really soon. I mean, if you get into the website, you will have a lot of resources and everything all around, some blog or something that we talk about all this stuff. But we're doing this university concept right now that it's going to be more like a precise step by step that you want to take. It's going to be a guide that's saying, okay, about shipping. And you will find a lot of blog spot and entries and videos about shipping and price tag. And I write it down, for example, a blog about the 5 times rule that everyone talks about when you decided to go for a game to define the price tag of your game. It's like we try to get all this stuff because we know that designers need all those because they don't have an idea of how it works. I mean, if you go from 500 copies to the UK from this, it's going to be $7 each piece. But if you go to 2,000, probably it's going to drop half of it or even less. So it
Mhm.
says, okay, if I have this $3.50 on the UK, I can sell this on $15, and I'm gonna have a market. If I'm doing the other side, and take only 500 copies, I'm gonna put a $20 price tag. Probably the market is gonna be a lot less. You're gonna have a lot more work to get to know that game and get it to the market. So it's a all of a sudden the price of the game, it's the definition of the success of the game, because the price of how much it's going to pay, how much do you going to pay for that game, probably it's going to define your market. So it's
For
like,
sure. I think that one thing I've noticed at conventions and whatnot, and just in terms of online sales, people are slightly less price sensitive than I am. Like people are less price sensitive than I would have believed. But for sure, if it's going to be 10 versus 20 or even 10 versus 30, that makes a big difference on how many you're able to sell, because one of those might be, yeah, sure, whatever, I enjoyed it, or not even I enjoyed it, at a demo, oh, this box looks pretty, I will assume that the box is correct and I will buy it out of a shop. Whereas
Well,
if it's,
you're
well,
probably hardcore. You're probably a hardcore player. That's what we call a hardcore player. A guy that doesn't matter too much how much it costs things. If they like it, they're
no,
gonna
I am
they're gonna.
not.
But
I said
but
that this is my perceived behavior of other people.
yeah, but it's not that many people do that. I mean, usually you will find a few dozen of people that makes that. Usually the price tag it's what defines a game. Um, Again, it's a question.
I There's a limit to that. So I find that, obviously it depends. As I actually said that 10 to 20 pounds makes a big difference. I was agreeing. I was saying that people are less price sensitive than me, because myself, if something costs £1 for a print and play versus £4 for me, that makes a big difference. But I discovered that on Boards Game Geek, a few hundred people told me that for them, they would actually prefer to pay £2 than £1. And a lot of them said, actually, I would prefer to pay even more. And this might just be a few hundred people, but it has been shown time and again on Kickstarters that, I mean, people aren't necessarily going to buy something just because they're £1. And if anything, if it's too cheap, then it can lead to perception of low quality. Similarly, when I'm at a convention, if I'm selling something for £5 and something else for £10, it doesn't mean that or even 20, like, yes, this is at a convention. I will agree that this is just a few hundred people as opposed to the many more people who come through mass market. But at that point, I think that the people you're reaching will probably, if they see the game and see, hey, this is something that's going to offer me a unique experience over anything else, it doesn't make much of a difference whether it's £5 or £10 at that point, or even £15. Sure, once you go to £25, that makes a big difference. But I think that at that low level, again, I don't think it makes a difference. And it all relies on what you're selling people. I mean, looking at, you can pull out the stops, and what I'm saying is that you don't have to be the cheapest you possibly can be.
Yeah, I mean, there's some things that designers might consider. If you take that for granted, I mean, if you take that something that I'm about to say, if you consider that it's okay for you, then you have to move whatever you want. If you go for 500, 1,000, the real thing
You
is
think that
that
what is okay for you?
no, not okay. The thing is that for 500, you're gonna lose money. You're not making this as income. You're not making this as something that it might help you out with your incomes. You're probably gonna lose money. If you're doing 500 on Kickstarter, definitely you're gonna lose money. Definitely. I mean, I pretty sure that every single project that they decided to go for 500 because they're doing a Kickstarter and they get 100 backers, they probably lose money. It's impossible not to do it. For
I
1,000,
know I know in 99% cases you're probably right, but the
that, there's always a difference.
argumentative side of
I,
me wants to
there's
kind of.
some projects that are pretty cool and they're maybe cheap and to produce and whatever, but to be honest, the when you get in contact with a mass production company, and when you decided to go for China and do all this stuff and do all this job that is going around making a game, which is not easy. I always I always say to the designers that if you get your game down, you should be proud, because it's, even though if you're going to lose money, it's something unique for the designer. This and it's something,
100%.
yeah. But the designers usually they're doing this. I mean, we all do this for the love of the game, and we're doing this for the love of making things. But on the end, there's something on the wallet, and you have to open the wallet on the. It's all of a sudden you lose a lot of money. So for 500, you're gonna lose money. For 1,000, you're probably gonna be break even. Probably lose a slight amount of money, but you end up doing your own game, which is awesome. It's like a hobby you spend on your hobby. But from 2,000, you can start considering something more than breaking even. For example, paying the bills, because producing this is one amount of money, but making all the art and making everything possible, it's a lot of money. Sometimes, as you see on this small box, there are 65 illustrations, so you can pay up to $10,000 of illustrations within this box. So how do you get that money back? Probably never. If you sell 10,000 copies of this, you're gonna get back, but probably never. So it's like life, it's a balance. You can go for 500. I always suggest that you first do your game, no matter if you're doing 500 or 10,000. Do your game. You may end up doing 500, and turns out that some of those guys that saw your game really like it and say, yeah, I love this, and it can push more and more copies of your game. So do it, whatever it takes, do it. But don't expect great numbers on 500 or 1,000, because they're awful. The numbers are awful. When I send the quotation to the designers and they say, whoa, and why it's so expensive 500 and so cheap 2,000? The setup process. If you know how setup works on mass production, you will
Let's
know why.
talk about that setup. So let's say I had multiple games that had exactly the same components, but the graphics are different. Can
Well,
the setup cost be reduced for the second project if they're done at the same time?
yeah, yes and no. The good thing about Chinese manufacturing is that they already have thousands of things done. So if you have a special size of a component, they're not gonna go. They're gonna. They will not charge you, not even on the first time, on the 10th time that you use that kind of component. They're not gonna charge you the tooling for that, because it's already out there. If you know how a manufacturing company from China works, they have literally thousand of already set up stuff to create components and whatever. So they're not going to charge you for the tooling. The setup, it's another thing, and you cannot avoid it. I will explain a little bit, just in 1 minute, how awesome it works.
Yeah, because we're already out of time, but it has been a lovely chat, so thank you.
Okay, if you want to cut it, just say it. And
no. Tell me about the tooling, and then we'll wrap it up.
When you do a setup process, you take your art and you do your sheet, because this is not printed like this. It's printed like a whole sheet. First thing is that you have to ask your manufacturing how many cars fit on that sheet. Because if the sheet is for this car, for example, is 65. So if your game have 67, for only 2 cars, you will have to print 2 sheets. So it's twice the price for only 2 cars.
That's an interesting number. Normally it's about 54 or 55 or 56, but for Hero Time, it's 65.
For every company, it depends on the size, because it depends on the production company. Because the mass production process, the offset printing, has different sheet sizes. There's some that are huge. There's some Hindelburg, that's the biggest brand of offset printing in the world, that you can create up to 120 cars altogether, because they have this huge sheet size of 100 centimeters by 92 centimeters. But on our case, we have one that it fits 65 of these guys. of
So in that
reg.
situation, if you have a game with 55 cards, then you should probably use the other 10 cards for maybe promo or something.
You will see that up to this many cards for free. So you have, for example, cool stretch goals. That's a little secret. The stretch goals usually are free on the designer side because they already know the sheet size and they already know that it doesn't matter if the game has 50 cards or 60, it's going to be the same price. So uh, the thing is that when you do this, you put all that on the sheet and how mass printing works. The offset, it's a combination of four colors, the famous CNYK, cyan, magenta, yellow, and black. When you decided to produce something, we're going to separate it in the four colors in different plates, and those plates are put in drums, in four different drums. So when the paper passes by, this is not how exactly it works, but it's to get an idea. So you have the full colors split it on cyan, magenta, yellow, and black. We put those plates on a drum, and then when the paper passes by there, it's going to imprint the drums. They're going to imprint that. Okay. So that requires to get this in a computer to play technology to separate it, to put on the drum, to align everything, to set up everything. It takes about 100 sheets to get everything done. The color rights, you have to balance the colors, say, okay, more white, less, more cyan, less magenta. All that setup, it takes about, I will say, an hour, more or less. You drop or you have to toss 100 sheets of the game. You have to toss it because they're going to be different, misaligned, different colors, whatever. And then when you say, okay, let's print, you push the button, and an offset printing usually print 12,000 copies an hour. So if you need 1,000 copies, it takes only 6 minutes, but 1 hour setup. Okay, so that's why it's really, really cheap when you go more and more copies, because that hour setup, that no matter if the game needs, you want to produce one copy or 10,000 copies, it's going to be the same setup. So it's like that price, that setup price, it's going to be really, really heavy on a 500 games. To be honest, on offset printing, if you want to 500 sheet of this, it only takes about 3 minutes to produce it, but 1 hour to set up. Okay. Like that, there's a lot of stuff. When you do the cutting, it's the same. The cutting takes a process that it's a mold with the blades that you put it on the machine. You have to adjust it on the machine, make the line, try one of few sheets. Okay, it's okay. Let's just start working. When you start working, that machine produces 2,000 an hour, but it takes about 1 hour to produce one. That's setup. That's why it's so expensive, the setup
And
process.
so you said the printing takes an hour to set up, and then it's printing 12,000 an hour, but then the cutting machine is maybe taking also an hour to set up, and it's doing 2,000 an hour for the cutting. Is that right?
Exactly. Like that, there's all the processes are pretty much the same. It takes a lot to set up, and when you start up
So
setup,
if you have multiple games that are the same in terms of, physically, um, let's say you had 5 game, or let's say you just had 2 games that are okay, they're both this many cards in this box, and so that means that the 1 hour for the printing, you would still need to do that for the second game because you still need to get the
you
colors
still
correct and
to
everything.
with
But then
all
for
blades.
the cutting machine, you would save 1 hour of setup for the cutting machine.
Yeah, but in that case, you can share the cutting process, or you
Yes,
can share the
exactly.
writing process, and you can share the box making process. All that thing you can share, but there's other things that you cannot share, like printing. So yeah, that's pretty much how it works, and that's why we always suggest to get everything standardized, because you're gonna be a lot cheaper. If you see on other companies, you're probably gonna see something that is called tooling. Tooling is when the company charge you for making something special. Some companies tooling every time. I mean, even though they already have all the tools to make the games, they already make a fixed price, and they make they add you the tooling of the quotation. Some of them, biggest one, when you have something weird, like you don't use regular hex size or tiles or whatever, then charge you for um, they charge you
Sure, or
for.
if you want a specific shape, then they might have to create specific
You may have,
metal blades for this.
you may have an extra price. In this case, in our case, we try to get everything to standardize. We develop all these standardized components. So we try, when we get in contact with the designers, tell them, if you go 2 millimeter less, you can get into the standard size, so it's going to be cheaper and blah blah blah. And probably the only thing that we still use or still need tooling, it's the plastic, because the plastic is a thing that you always had to make a tool about it. Not regular pounds, like you say, okay, but I want a regular pound. Well, in that case, it doesn't matter. We have the component. But if you want your own hero, your own design of hero, you need to do the tooling. And usually it's not that cheap, the plastic ones. But as you see on our games we made, we figure out a way to make everything within a standard. So the games, I mean, we have 7 different types of stacks of boxes. We have 7 type of cards. We have a lot of different type of components like tiles, hex tiles, square tiles. So if you get in contact with us in the beginning of your design, and we can make you suggestions regarding to that, you can get a standardized price, and usually you can save up to 10% of quotation by going to standards. And right now our standards are pretty high. I mean, there's a lot of components right now. We have thousands of components that are standardized.
And if people want something custom, then that can always be done, but for a price.
Yeah.
And it is really cool to see the commitments. I know this is a big reason why Earth Rising went with Hero Time, where renewable paper costs about 12 cents per sheet. So that's going to be, for a game like this, that would be 12 cents extra per copy of the game. So
Exactly.
it's basically nothing.
Well, just one thing is that we always try to. This is a concern about the environment that we have. We always try to not to add all the things that you see there on the eco-friendly solutions. We try not to add anything on the quotes. We try to avoid. I mean, we try to engage the designers to do some of this stuff eco-friendly. So even though the website might say that it might be an overcharge because of doing that, we usually spare that on the process, because it's a little more expensive because it's a manual process. But we end up deciding that it's like we're punishing designers who wants to get eco-friendly solutions in their games. So it's really weird that we overcharge if you are doing some eco-friendly. And on the other side, we are already doing eco-friendly in all the games. I mean, all the ink, no matter if you decided to do it or not eco-friendly, we use water-based ink. We use renewable source paper. Those things they're there for all our games. You don't need to ask those. They're there. I mean, of course, if you want an insert that it has plastic in there, well, that's not an eco-friendly solution. But if you want, we can design our own insert made of cardboard or corrugated cardboard that it's an eco-friendly solution. If you're really concerned about ecology, and you want to have your game as much eco as it might, we offer a few solutions there that it reduce the impact, trying to avoid using plastic. Sometimes it's impossible, but we try to make our best. But
okay,
based
so
on
if you are doing it all the time, then it's presumably things like the 400 setup fee isn't required if you're willing to change the timing of when exactly the game goes through the printer.
yeah, I mean there's a lot of stuff there that we already have as a basic on our production. So we try not to move to that. I mean, The most important thing on paper is paper and ink, and we paper, ink, and the other one it's a varnish. We try to keep all that in a friendly environment process, so we end up doing all the time that. I mean, we only use that. They used to have lead-based ink and not renewable source paper, and we try to fix that with some suppliers this year. We end up doing it right now. All the papers that the company use are from a renewable source, and all the ink and varnish it's from eco-friendly water-based solutions. The other things, I'm afraid not. I mean, if you do PPO, I mean, if you want to laminate, or if you want, again, if you want to shrink wrap your cars or whatever, those
Or
are
if you
plastic.
want to have foil stamping, then there's no way to do that in an eco-friendly way.
Way to do it. I mean, as always, when the designer has a big concern on eco-friendly, they talk to us and we told them, this is all, this is eco, and this is no way to do it eco. Or
Like
maybe we
UV varnish, you can't do it in a environmentally responsible way.
lamination is not possible because it's plastic. Varnish, yes, you can use water-based varnish, not oil varnish, but water-based varnish.
One last thing I would like to ask. You talk about recyclable shrink wrap on your website, and
Yeah.
obviously this depends on the recycling possibilities for a lot of places.
No,
We
no,
might not be
the
able to put it
shrink
into
wrap,
the
it's a plastic that is biodegradable. I don't know how to say it in English. It's
biodegradable. Yes, that's the word.
it comes from that.
Is it
The
actually cellophane?
Yeah, it's not based on petrol. It's not based on oil, but it's based on a vegetable process. I mean, the plastic comes out from vegetables. So the only thing with that, it's not 100% transparent. The biodegradable things usually are, they're not 100% transparent. So you all have this bubble wrap, this wrap thing that it's little moisty. I mean, the color is not crystal, If you
Mm-mm.
don't have a problem with that, we can do it. The thing is that I'm afraid that none of the designers want to have these bags on their. I mean, we're talking about the shrink wrap that wraps the box. You know, Everyone wants crystal clear, transparent thing on that, and the bio solutions are not 100% transparent. I'm afraid. They're not even 100% real clear. You may have a small black dots, small ones, all over the places, all over the plastic. It looks like a filthy plastic. So no one likes it, I'm afraid. But we offer it if someone wants to do it.
Okay. I have to admit, I wasn't familiar with POF material at all. And the one place where I've managed to find any material about it, I guess, is um, on another website where it looks as if it's a. Let me remove that for just a moment. Um, yeah, on this other website, this is apparently POF material, but it looks quite clear to me.
It's not 100% clear. I mean, if you take a look at, it's not fully transparent. PPO
Yes.
process,
So when you say
PVC.
it's 30, you don't mean that it looks horrible. You just mean it looks like 95% transparent. So it still has that transparency, right?
It looks like you will. It's like you have that, I don't know, in a shelf for over 2 years. So it's like it's a little more darker. It's not 100% transparent. It's 95% transparent. So it's getting
Okay.
it has the transparent the PPO, the non environmental friendly solution, like the regular that like 99.9 games that you will see have it, has this 100% crystal clear, meaning you put it on the sun and you will get it will pass by all the colors and it will pass by all the sunlight. On this case, you may even put it and they will create a shadow. It's like it's a little more dense and it has a little thing of yellow. It's not pure white, pure crystal. It has a little tint of yellow. So some people don't like that. When they see it on the
Okay.
game, it's like wrapping things like that. It's like, I don't know, you're getting a game that it looks like it's been on the shelf for 2 years.
Mm-mm-mm.
But
Yeah,
it,
it's an interesting one, and I guess things like this are going to be a lot more possible where there's a lot more direct sales going on.
yeah,
Because if you're not relying on people randomly picking it up on a shelf, but if you're primarily selling through the internet or you're selling at conventions where people already see the game outside, then it's not going to be an issue,
Uh,
presumably.
on the future, I think this week I was seeing the 3M, the company that does this scotch process. That they
Mm-mm.
have a huge experience on packaging. They're doing this bubble wrap made of wood instead of plastic. So it's amazing. I mean, we're moving to this renewable concept that everything has to be renewable. That's cool. It's gonna take a while on the board games, but it's gonna be there. Actually, it is there because, like again, we're using water-based ink, we're using water-based varnish. That's because we really care about the environment. But on the end, we're gonna have everything, or we're trying to have as much possible as everything. But to be honest, people, let's say Kickstarter guys, they want miniatures, for example, and miniatures full of
Mm-mm-mm.
plastic, and that's not friendly environment, I'm afraid. But people
Yeah, I
don't.
think that the consumers need to be educated, and until we can make these things out of some other material, then yeah.
The only eco-friendly solution that we did in the past and we don't suggest is that instead of using wrapping things on your game, plastic wrapping, you use a sticker to close your box. That's not a good idea. Avoid that. We don't do that anymore. I think it's still on the website, but we don't do that because the things that you're shipping, they're no longer protected in any way. So
Yes, 100%. It is on the website, and
avoid.
um,
Don't do that. I mean, if you want to your product to be sold directly in a convention or something that we're just shipping, yeah, avoid that because it's like it's not protected at all. The product, and the product it's on the wild.
I mean, it
So
sounds like your you need to kind of go through the website, someone who's a native English speaker to maybe tweak some things and add the university things. But
not
listen,
only that, but it's weird because everyone is English speaker. Actually, Hirsch is from the USA. I don't know why. I mean, probably he end up
oh,
not.
sure, but I know there's a million things that you have to do every day, and
Yeah,
working,
I
running a
used
company like
I
this, you might be
used
putting out
some
daily fires.
website and I told him and he fixed it and everything. But again, he's from the USA. The guy that is doing that, Barry from both Barry and Hirsch, and I'm not from the USA, but I can read and if I found a mistake I can say it. We're all from non-Chinese. That's weird.
Mm-mm-mm.
That there are some things on the web that are miss.
It's been a lovely chat. I We've already gone a bit over the time that I said to you that it would be. So thank you for giving me your time. But I've asked you so many questions. I would like you to have the opportunity to ask me something. What would you like to ask me, or indeed anyone watching this? It's time for the question of the day. Question of the day. It's a little question before we go on our way. Question of the day. What are you
Well,
going
one
to ask us?
thing that I always ask to gamers, I mean, are you? Did you design your own game?
Yes?
Okay. How do you find after you design your own game? How do you find playing games from the other? Are you're not more critical of what other
I've
designers
always
do?
been critical.
Okay.
That's how I would answer that. Sure, as I've become, as my years have gone on, I have become increasingly critical, but I don't think there was ever a um, binary switch to say, okay, at this point I've published my own game. Now I'm suddenly changed massively. It's a case that, when I was very small, I think that I thought about games in a more mindful way and a more analytical way than most people. And I believe that those people who think about games in that analytical way are more likely to become game designers. And it can become a case of whether the chicken or the egg happens first. And analysis can lead to game design, or game design can lead to greater analysis. And but yes, absolutely. If you find yourself happy and delighted to play anything, and you never find yourself critiquing anything, that might be a sign, in my mind, that you might not be a good person to be a game publisher or a game designer, because you need to be critical of your own stuff. And if you're not going to be able to be critical of other people's stuff, how can you be critical of your own?
Exactly. Exactly. I always ask this when I saw that it's a gamer that decided to move forward and do their own game. Usually, we're really, really critics on other games. It looks like each game it's, oh, this is awesome, but there's always a but. It's like, I love this game, but I mean, I'm a huge Dominion fan, huge. I will say that Dominion is here and the rest of the game are way lower. And I love it. And when I play it, I say, I still love it. I love this game, but it's like I it's like I want to talk to the designer and say, I love this, but this is missing. Why it's not here? And it's like, yeah, you start doing your own. That's probably
Well,
I for
maybe we can have you back at some point, in a month to talk all about what you think of Dominion, and so you can criticize your favorite game. But at
yeah.
this
I mean,
point, over to you. What are you up to? You can share, but if you want to. Is there something that you have to do, something that you want to do? Is there something you want to share? Please do. I promise I care. I myself am going to. My shower managed to come back miraculously. It's really weird. My shower wasn't working for a few days. I didn't do anything. As far as I know, the neighbors didn't do anything, but maybe someone, changed something on another floor, for all I know, because, it's a block of flats, so maybe they're all connected. Anyway, I'm going to make sure I take a shower while I can, and try and head out, see how I'm feeling, see if I'm up to heading up to Glasgow tomorrow. That is my aim, and I've got a bunch of things that I need to
here
post,
everything
but I'm
being
just going to focus on getting outside if I can. That is today's goal. Otherwise, I might relax a bit more, watch a few more shows, and maybe even play a bit more Undertale. How about you, Pablo? What are you up to?
I cannot say because these last days for us has been a huge shake. All this World Cup thing is like here in Argentina, everything it's upside down. I mean, it's like I need to work. I need to go to work each day, but it's like I don't know something. It's different since we won that World Cup, and people is different. So everything is better now, and everyone is more polite and everything. It's like everything was shaken down on the last few days here. So uh, I need to get back. I mean, everyone need to get back on track because it seems that everyone is off here. It's like
Mm-mm.
maybe due to Christmas, maybe due to workout, whatever, but it's like everyone is crazy. Some people are working, some people they're not working, some people take a few days off. It's like, I mean, since the other day, everything went crazy here. So we need to
Well,
settle.
I hope that you manage to, whatever you get up to, have a joyous day and also a productive one. To
Thank you.
everyone out there, I'd like to recap and wrap up before we finish up. So, to recap and wrap up, we talked about how Hirsch, Pablo, and Barry are being the representatives to handle the accounts and talk to those designers, self publishers. We talked about making maybe 8 or 10 games a month, which might be from 500 to 100,000 copies each, So maybe 50 to 100,000 copies of a game every month. We talked about all being like 4 years ago, like it's all been set up, but yourself falling in love with Lord of the Rings, Pablo just adoring this story and the fantasy and engaging in every manner, enjoying Barrage and Happy Salmon, Shitty Friends. We didn't playtest this at all. Rhino Hero, Through My Goal, which I will have to check up, and Dominion. We talked about Clash of Armies, which took from 2016, and then finally 2021 it was shared with the world, printed by Comiso, a first time publisher, but now you're working on something first time manufacturer, but now you're working on doing something in a more international basis. We talked about me playing Tic Tac Match, had a tangent about how so many of the games that you playtest are Uno. The notion of the fact that you playtest games for your clients, which is, I agree, incredibly, I would say it's unique as far as I'm aware, anyway. And we talked about how the company started with Hirsch meeting people in China and the brother making toys, and then thinking, oh, maybe I can outsource and do these things for the family. And then it grew up from the fact that Hirsch just loved games. We talked about the prices. So maybe for 500 of a game like this, it might be $3.5 for 1,000, $2.7 for 2,000, maybe $2.2 each. But then you've got to add on the transports, whether that's X Works just left in the factory and someone else does all this stuff. FOB, where it's on the ship, at the port of wherever you want it to be. CAF, which means coming to the UK ports, or DDP, which means all the way to the recipient. We talked about the whole postage, the whole shipping is probably going to cost, again, for a game like this, like whether you do 500 copies or 2,000 copies, around £2,000. And so, as you can tell, that's going to add so much for 500 copies, which means that you end up losing money for 500 copies, probably, or unless you've got lots of experience and want to do it to prove someone wrong, which might be possible because there's always exceptions. But realistically, 500 copies, you lose money. 1,000, maybe you break even. 2,000, you're going to end up with a little bit of profit. We ended up talking about this price sensitivity of the consumer, how they find the game, and a little bit about that 5 times markup. We didn't really go too much in depth about that. That's a conversation we could potentially have another day. We talked about for printing like the colors onto cards, onto the paper, it's going to be like 1 hour to set it up. And then you've got these hundreds copies that just get thrown away. And after that, it's going to take maybe 6 minutes to produce over 1,000 games. And so that is the real cost to set up. And similarly for the cutting, yeah, it takes an hour and then a few minutes. Well, it's more like half an hour to do the cutting for 1,000. But even there, saving that 1 hour of setup costs, if you can have multiple games in your line, something like Oink Games or myself with Kitty Cataclysm and DL Wibble Plus Plus Deluxe, having something that looks physically very, very similar, then you can save a few pounds potentially. But it has been an absolutely delightful chat, and thank you for joining me. And at this point, I want to remind people that I am Stuff by Bez in all of the places. If you want to check out my future streams, check out stuffbybez.com/streams. Tomorrow, I am meeting Drew Schmiel, who is a retailer from the USA. Wednesday, talking about Dutch auctions. Thursday, discussing Keyforge with a superfan. And if you want to check out Hero Time, where do you like to be found?
Okay, it's herotime1.com. You can find us there.
Thank you so much. And
nice recap. Yeah.
Thank you. Nice. And please, everyone, share, spread the word. Thank you so much for being here. And most of all, thank you, to Pablo for joining me, and it's been lovely meeting you. Do you have anything left to say?
Oh, that's okay. Thank you so much for this. I really appreciate when they give us the opportunity to talk about this. I love to talk about it. So anytime that you need, and you need a hand on producing something, just let me know. No problem.
Well, for now, one thing that I'm going to say is, of course, bye, 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 bye. This is a goodbye song. Do. Bye, 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 bye. Thank you for watching along. Bye, 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 bye. This is the end of the show. Bye, 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 bye. And now it's time to go. Bye, 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 bye. This is a goodbye song. Bye, 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 bye. Thank you for watching along. Bye, 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 bye. This is the end of the show. Bye, 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 bye. And now it's time to go. Bye, bye, everyone.
Thank you.